also introduce our guests who are joining us. Rakesh Chopra, former member, Engineering Indian Railway Board. Joining us, Mr. Ramakrishnan, TS, Railway expert. Sir, good evening to both of you. Do you have any question to ask of Mr. Anubhav, who is a survivor who was on Coromandel Express?
I think Anubhav has given a very, very detailed, whatever happened there in great detail. As a matter of fact, his build-up of the whole accident and subsequently his efforts at calling the NDRF teams and other people there are need to be applauded actually. I think he's done a wonderful job. He's given a good description. It will certainly help, and I'm sure he'll be called by the Commissioner of Railway Safety as and when the inquiry starts. Probably he would be one of them who would be called there.
Sir, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah. I mean, even I didn't get the exact sequence of events because there are, various versions that have been coming out. And now I understand that the front portion of the Coromandel Express got mangled, and the last portion of the Bangalore-Howrah Express got mangled. So that is how the casualty has increased. And he has rightly pointed out it is never a head-on collision or rear-end collision. It is it's a question of how the track, how the coaches have derailed, and then on the derailed coaches, the train comes and hits, and again it is hitting only on the last portion. So basically, it is, as he has rightly said, the accident severity would have been much worse had it been hit from the at the front itself, and it appears that everything has happened in so short time. Maybe 2 minutes, 1 minute, so that nothing could have been aborted so easily. So, still we have to work out on that, the technical, how to overcome this kind of accidents that is happening in a very short span of, say, 2 minutes, 1 minute. But this is a very good, case study for Indian Railway to take up the railway safety to the highest level.
Right. Now, Mr. Ramakrishnan and Mr. Chopra, I beg your indulgence, sir. Allow me to read, and Anubhav, please stay on with us for a few minutes, please, if you can. Allow me to read the conclusion of the report sent by the observers panel. The last part of this report, and this is signed by 5 people, and I would ask Mr. Chopra and Mr. Ramakrishnan to tell us what is an observers panel and the details thereof. But here's the conclusion. Here's the conclusion, sir. Let me first read out the conclusion to you. It says, we, the undersigned, after careful observation, came to conclusion that signal was given and taken off for up main line for 12841, which is the Coromandel Express, but this train entered into up loop line and dashed into goods train which was on loop line and derailed. Now this is what the observers panel report says. Yeah. Now Mr. Anubhav, who was on board the Coromandel Express, is telling us that there was no collision. The collision happened after the train derailed. Anubhav, is that correct?
Yeah, right.
So, Mr. Sharma, first to you, how should this be read?
There is a... Sharma, I'm Chopra.
Yeah, sorry, sir. Rakesh Chopra.
You're asking me, Mr. Subramaniam. Okay, so it's like this. Sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chopra, if you can hear me. I think he's looking for his earpiece. Can happen sometimes. But Mr. T.S. Ramakrishnan, I just read out the observer's report and the conclusion that tells us a different story from what Anubhav Das, the eyewitness or the passenger on board Coromandel Express, has told us.
Yeah, you are right. Actually, see, the fact has to be ascertained because it's all. He has told, he has narrated. Mr. Anubhav has narrated whatever he has. Understood from the side. but the sequence of events have to be ascertained by various factors. Okay, not just one factor, various factor. There will be forensic evidence. There will be, other evidences from the. I mean, if the drivers are, if the loco pilots are alive, then it has to be taken from them. So it has to be, then signaling. Conditions. I mean, what kind of signal was given, and then how the train was allowed to pass. So there are multiple factors that will be taken into consideration, and then based on which actually the sequence of events may come. So again, the Railway Safety Commissioner report may be differing from the observer's report also, because observer report is a prima facie report, and that also can change. So essentially, it is not a direct collision. It is basically the collision of a train on the derailed bogies. That is what actually what I can sum it up.
Okay. Mr. Rakesh Chopra.
Unfortunately, the goods train
Let
was
me give my viewpoint.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's like this. The report that you mentioned, that is an obligatory stuff that is required to be made out by the inspectors of all the departments who are involved. So there was the P-way man, there was the coaching man, there was the signaling person, there was the overhead electrical person. Those people are required to actually go ahead and work out what conceptual theoretical sequence of events there. So that report really covers that. That is the first report. It indicates what they observed, what they have found out, but it is not the last report. That is number one. Right. It will be taken care of by the Chief Commissioner of Railway Safety. It will be given the weightage that is due. The second thing that comes out from Anubhav's statement is very important. Now let me explain what happens. This train was coming at a high speed, and as Anubhav also says that at this station, this train was to cross with the other station coming from Bangalore. Now these crossings do take place, normal. But what happened was, just before the last signal, just before it entered into the main line, the points were set for the turnout and onto the goods line where the goods train was standing. Now this is very significant because there is a mention of a derailment. Now what could happen? The turnout points, that is the points and crossings which go up from the main line to the siding, they are not capable of taking these speeds. They are designed for 30 kilometers, 25 kilometers, 35 kilometers, and a train is expected with the signaling to go slow and take its course there. What happened in this case, as it seems, of course, everything would depend upon the final report, and that would be the answer. It appears that at a high speed, when this train approached, it was expected to go on the straight track, and then all of a sudden, the point was switched towards the goods line, and the engine got into that. Engine has so much of force at 130 kmph that it probably uprooted and derailed, and then went and hit into the goods train and climbed onto the goods train. With this, what happened, there was an impact and buckling of the rear of the train. Unfortunately, the buckling could have been on this side or other side. It went onto the side where the other train was passing. Now, this is a sequence of events that comes out of what Anubhav has said, and how these work out in the inquiries would be known later. But irrespective of that, what comes out is that this is a rare accident. 3 trains getting involved like this, I don't think I've heard of it on the Indian Railways, having served Indian Railways for 38, 39 years. We haven't had it. I didn't see one, and I didn't hear of one earlier than me. Simultaneously, it is a normal practice that the trains cross at stations at full speed. There's nothing wrong with it. So somewhere the turnout, the points and crossing, or the signal somewhere have switched, and that is what will be needed into the detailed inquiry that would require to be found out.
Now, Mr. Rakesh Chopra, Mr. Ramakrishnan and Anubhav, we'll have to take a short break, but there's so much more that I have to ask all three of you, and there are questions that people want answered. So we'll continue this conversation. Please stay with us. The death toll has now gone to 288, more than 900 people injured. And the Prime Minister has said that the guilty will not be spared. You're watching Times Now. We are back in just a bit. You're watching Times Now. This is the non-stop coverage of the Odisha train tragedy. This is the triple train tragedy that we are talking about. Just before the break, Rakesh Chopra, who's with us, was telling us that this is perhaps for the first time that 3 trains are involved in this, and that perhaps tells you the magnitude of this tragedy. More than 288 lives lost, hundreds injured. In fact, the number of people who injured, that number is at 900 plus. Mr. Chopra, thank you for staying on. Anubhav, thank you so much for narrating what you saw and experienced. Please stay on. I have a few questions. In fact, I have the preliminary report. And Mr. Chopra, I want you to shed more light on this. There is one point that I am unable to understand. It says the stretcher bar was found in such condition which shares or something which points was set for up loop line. What does this mean, sir?
Sir, the points and crossings, see, there is, I mean, if you go to the technical things, that might be difficult for the layman to understand. From one track to the other track, when you go, we call it the turnout. Turnout is the place from which the train takes a direction and changes its direction. Now, for the turnout to be in operation, for the facing side, suppose the train is coming and facing it, the train can either go straight or onto the left or right, whichever side the turnout moves. So there is a rail, if you must have seen, very sharp rails which are butting against the main rail, and both sides. So these keep shifting and giving a direction to the movement of the train. These 2 sharp rails are connected by these plates or rods. So it is that rod which was there, and its location indicated the direction of the train in which it was required to move. That is what the report says.
So are we to understand that the train was signaled to go on to the loop line?
Yes, yes. So that is what it is. That is what is going to be now found in the inquiry. The train was signaled, not signaled to go on the loop line. It was signaled to go on the main line. Now the very question is, how did it get onto the loop line? Now that is the crux of the matter, and that is the root cause for that has to be found out, that what happened there, because the signal and all of the report there, it indicates that the train was supposed to go straight. And if it is going to turn onto the loop line, how did that happen there when there was a train standing? You see, normally what happens, we've got an electronic system. And if there's a train standing, it shows on the station masters or the cabin, it shows the track is occupied. And the point doesn't set. So there is apparently something which is unknown, which has happened.
Okay.
Maybe
something
in the
unknown and
side,
unusual that
maybe
needs
in
to be
the
ascertained. I understand that, Mr. Rakesh Chopra. And T.S. Ramakrishnan wants to come in. Mr. Ramakrishnan, before you...
I wouldn't say...
Unusual, I think you have a problem with the word unusual.
I wouldn't say it is unusual.
Okay.
There have been... No. Yeah, what I'm saying is that these things have happened in the past.
Right.
We know that they have happened in the past also.
Right.
Trains have gone on the wrong direction.
Okay.
But we do know why they have happened. So in this case, we have to find out why it happened.
Sure. Why it happened needs to be ascertained. Now, Mr. Ramakrishnan, I know you want to come in, but Anubhav has his hand up. I think he wants to say something, and then I'm coming to you, Mr. Ramakrishnan.
Pranesh, thank you. I have a small query that I want to put forward to Mr. Chopra, because he has this experience in this field. Mr. Chopra, if I may, the preliminary report says that the signal was given and taken off for the Coromandel Express to enter into the up main line. Right, sir? Now, the main line is the active line on which the Coromandel Express was supposed to move on. And this particular freight train, the goods train, was on the up loop track. Correct, sir?
Loop line.
Yeah, correct. Please
Loop
go
line.
ahead.
Now, sir, now, if that signal is there such, have you come across such instances where signals are given and taken off at such a short span of time towards the end, or did the Coromandel Express's pilot did not understand the taking off of the signal?
No, Anubhav. So what happens is, that is precisely what happens. It's a circuitry. It's a circuitry.
Okay.
See, I don't want to delve into it because I don't know what finally has happened, but it's a circuitry. So apparently there has been a switching off the signal. There has been a switching on and off of the signal. Now that is where the crux lies. Why did it happen? Did somebody do it? Why did it happen? Or did it happen on its own? Or was there a short circuit in the panel there? So these are some things which will require to be found out in the inquiry.
Also, sir, Pranesh, I'm sorry I am intervening you.
No.
One more point.
It's important that you clear your doubts, and in the process, people are getting more clarity on this. Mr. Ramakrishnan, I know you want to come in, sir. I'm just coming to you after Anubhav makes his point.
Yeah. This question is for Mr. Ramakrishnan and for Mr. Chopra. From images of drone shot images that have been taken today morning, if you see clearly, the track that is totally disseminated and is not visible is the track on which this Bangalore Howrah Superfast Express was on. Okay, sir. Now the track on which the Coromandel Express was on is intact, looks intact to us as of now. But the brunt of the mishap and the main accident has occurred due to the derailment of the Coromandel. Now, do you think, and only the last 3 coaches have been derailed of the Yeswanthpur Bangalore Howrah Superfast Express. Now, what do you think has been the reason for the railway track, prolonged part of railway track of the Yeswanthpur Express to have totally been ripped apart?
Anubhav, the forces are so strong, and that other train was also moving at 130 kmph. So the forces are so strong that once, as you explained, that the 3 coaches went and hit the Yeswanthpur when it was moving, you see, all the thrust is taken by the wheels. Wheels have flanges. Those flanges get their direction and stability from the rail. So the flange and the rail has a connection. I mean, all the force that is there, the dynamic force is between the flange and the rail. So in this case, what happens? There's a train moving at a high speed and something comes and bangs into it. Now, that is the type of impact. So oftentimes we have seen the tracks get uprooted and thrown away. The rails get bent, sleepers get broken, ballast is spread out. So this happens in these cases because the forces are very high.
Yeah, exactly.
Krishnan, you've been listening to this intently. Your take, sir.
Yeah, he is absolutely right. Mr. Chopra is absolutely right. He has clearly explained it in terms of even when the flash flood comes, with the force of water, the tracks gets bent. So then if that is the case of water and, force of the water, then what about the force of, the rail is actually the smallest component of the train system. Because you look at the weight of the bogie, weight of the coach, and the weight of the tracks, it will completely disproportionate. So, when the force is, when the hit or collision happens, ultimately the force will be, passed on to the tracks, and the tracks are, dismantled and thrown, bent, all things happen. So, absolutely, I don't have anything, it is not surprising for me at all.
Now, what this accident has done is that triggered a debate on railway safety. Mr. Chopra and Mr. Ramakrishnan, I want both of you to weigh in on this. Your take first, Mr. Chopra.
I agree with you, but let me first put it very straight that, the trains have been going on the wrong tracks. Signals have been failing. So these are mechanical and electromechanical gadgetries which do happen. Having said that, the government has taken good steps. The anti-collision devices with the GPRS, with the radio communication now being introduced. So what has happened is that in the last year's budget, the railways have, the government has given the railways about 57,000 crores only for signaling. And that is going to include the anti-collision devices. One needs to understand that, we have got 70,000 route kilometers and over 100,000 track kilometers. 100,000 track kilometers. We got thousands of engines. Now the whole track, if we say, like for instance, people have also made a comment that on this particular route, the anti-collision devices were not installed. Yes, they were not installed. That is a fact. They were planned to be installed in 2024 or 2025. The whole Indian railways cannot be installed in one go. It requires a long time. It requires a lot of technical inputs and equipments which are required to be installed there. So I would say that, see, the railways in India have been taking progressive steps. Let me give you a very small fact. The last time when, I'm going by decades, starting with 50s, the one decade between the 50s to the 2000s, where the maximum number of accidents took place was in the 70s. And 70s was the time when we found that the fatigue in the system had grown and we had to infuse a lot of energy by way of monetary funds, by way of efforts, technology and things like that. Thereafter, the things kept improving and they ran well till 2010. The decade of 2010 and 20 even beat the decade of the 70s.
Right.
The 70s decade had 54 or 55 derailments. The decade had 65 derailments. But then the point is the number of trains have increased. And this is going to be a fact now. But as Mr. Ramakrishna also pointed out, the coaches have improved, the technology of coaches, technology of signals, technology of track, technology of points and crossings, the sturdiness, the significance of IoT that is being introduced. There is extensive AI that is being used in many ways in the railways.
Okay.
So they are taking steps to make it safe. Their intent is very clear. They wanted safety first.
Okay. Now, I'll have to take a short break, Mr. Ramakrishnan, then I'll come back to you. Anubhav, please stay on for a few more minutes. Thank you for patiently being with us. We are coming back with this, viewers, you're watching Times Now. You're with Times Now. We are tracking the deadliest train tragedy in the last 3 decades. 288 lives lost. The Prime Minister sending out a clear message and saying that the guilty, the culprit, will not be spared. The best medical treatment has been extended to those who are injured. That number of people who sustained injuries, that's at 900 plus. The Prime Minister also made a point to thank locals and authorities, the first responders initially. We have a wonderful panel. Anubhav Das, person who was on board the Coromandel Express, the eyewitness, if I can use that term to describe him. Mr. Rakesh Chopra and T.S. Ramakrishnan have been are the insiders, so to say, of the system, experts who've served the Indian Railways for decades and are now sharing their insight with us. Before we had taken a break, I wanted to understand from our guest about the railway safety debate. Now, Mr. Sharma says that, Rakesh Chopra says that there's nothing to worry. Things are in place. And, these things can happen sometimes. A probe will ascertain the real cause behind it. Mr. Ramakrishnan, what do you make of the railway safety debate that people are now talking about?
The railway safety is actually very critical for a reason. I'll tell you what it is. See, rail and air are graded transportation systems, whereas the road is an ungraded transportation system. So people have a lot of faith in the graded transportation system over ungraded transportation system. That means when I say graded transportation system, what I mean is it is being controlled, monitored, and then operated only by a few, not by everybody. So the train movement, track maintenance, everything is controlled by the Indian Railways and employees there. And certainly, so people expect a very safe journey all the time. It's not about, we can't say that 300 people died in a train accident and every day we are losing 350 people on road accidents. That cannot be a good comparison. So safety, railway safety is paramount as much as air safety, because people believe in the guided transportation system. That is first point. Second point is, from my understanding, Kavach could have never, because this is what the report is also saying now. The Coromandel Express has entered into the loop line and then hit the goods train. It should have never happened because there are two lines up and down. One line is for going and another line is for coming. And these two trains, the train which is coming from Howrah to Chennai and from Bangalore to Howrah, are supposed to operate in these two main lines. The side lines are meant for other purposes, like goods trains and other things to wait for the main lane to get cleared. So by and large, the main lanes are the ones which is supposed to go. And I don't think the signal would have been given for the Coromandel Express to enter the loop line.
Okay.
So signal would have been given into the, to go in the straight lane. But why the point mission? The point mission it is supposed to, because it's a normal. Normal
Right.
means it has to go, straight.
Right.
Reverse means it must take diversions. So I don't know how the
Let's
reverse
see
has
what happened,
happened.
sir.
And-
What went wrong? All that will come as the probe is still underway. Anubhav, in the end, would you like to say anything?
No, all that I can say is my heart goes out to the
Just
family
one
members.
idea I've got.
Sir.
Yes, Mr. Chopra, please go ahead, sir.
No, I just wanted to say yeah, I'm just saying, Mr. Subramaniam just mentioned the Kavach, I agree with him. As a matter of fact, my own assessment at the risk of what research has gone into the anti-collision devices, even the Kavach would not be able to save a situation like this. So
Right.
therefore, after the inquiry has been done, it is going to be very important to figure out, in a situation like this, how does the safety, it has to be imposed.
So this is where actually I wanted to come. So what I look for is from the Indian Railways Kavach Plus, because Kavach is not, because Kavach is what is Kavach? You put a machine inside the locomotive. So when the two trains are either coming to each other, or when one is going behind the other, so you
It
avoid
essentially
the friction.
prevents a front-on collision.
Front collision as well as rear collision. But if the coaches are thrown
rear
to
also.
the other track, how can that coaches can communicate with the locomotive?
Right.
It cannot communicate. So one is without communication, one is with communication. So there will not be any handshake.
Okay.
So when there is no handshake, the collision will happen. So I agree with what Mr. Kapoor has said, that it should be Kavach Plus.
Right.
So they have to go much, much beyond Kavach.
I thank both of you, Rakesh Chopra, T.S. Ramakrishnan, Anubhav Das, for joining us on Times Now. Anubhav, thank you. You take care of yourself. More power to you. You survived this and you shared your experiences. And like Mr. Chopra said, you might be called in as a witness also. So let's see when that happens. But I thank all of you, gentlemen, for speaking to Times Now. Taking a quick break, viewers. This is the non-stop coverage of the Odisha train tragedy. The death toll is at 288 as we speak.